So was it, a flat training session, or was there clinics or certain topics, or was it just all under one umbrella?
Yeah, there weren't like breakout sessions, but we
Okay.
had certain topics every like 2 hours at a time, yeah.
Perfect.
Um,
So, Mr. Shelby.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So the first class we did really focused on the president role, but it incorporated what all of us can do as board members. One of the things I thought was interesting is some boards do like a no surprise policy where they make sure they discuss things before the board meetings, so there's nothing that jumps out and is,
No, I don't mean.
Yep.
Go ahead.
oh, okay. So we're on the same page and everything's cleared up before we actually get to the table. They suggested that when the superintendent and treasurer does trainings, that they bring back feedback, like the way that we're doing the feedback to the community. They also suggested that at the end of each meeting, we talk about what we want to push out to the community. We do 3 takeaways that we want to focus on as a superintendent, as a treasurer, and then one as a board.
Tell me a little bit about the engagement prior to, and I only ask that because I don't want to leave the perception that there's a meeting before a meeting.
Right.
Did they clarify? Because my understanding is like, say if I have a question about something, I could call Erin and ask her what her thought is and how she might interpret it. But then I have to hang up and then I have to talk to Ashley. Then I have to talk. We
Right.
can't be on like a
One-on-one.
3-way call.
Yes.
We can't be seated anywhere. I just want to make sure
Yes.
that's clear.
Yeah,
Because a lot of meetings, and I'm not just saying us, but even Robert's Rules of Orders and other meetings, have a big stigma sometimes
Right.
with, oh, there's a meeting before a meeting.
right.
So elaborate on that a little.
I think the idea is to make sure that we're cohesive when we come to the floor, and like there's something huge that maybe one person doesn't agree on, they're able to discuss that with the superintendent beforehand, and get the answers they need, so it doesn't look like there's one person on the board that's against the rest of the board.
I think that has always been good for us. One, clarity, because we sit here and we don't know everything. I'll
Right.
tell people in a minute, I could be here until 20, 30 years, but I still don't know everything. And it is sometimes, what do you call it? It's intimidating to be
Right.
sitting somewhere and you really don't understand something. So to get the clarity before is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But that's a good point you bring.
Our next session, we actually broke out into small groups, and we talked about legal and legislative and policy. And we were given like different scenarios on how to handle things, which was really great. We got to partner with other districts, which was helpful to see like their insight from things. We talked about, like, for the legal aspect, we talked about, is there a conflict of interest when those kind of scenarios come up? For legislative, we talked about how we can invite our state legislators into the board meetings and partner with them. And me and Erin had talked about that also. How can we incorporate them from a state level so that we can see exactly who is pro-public school and let them have the opportunity to speak on it at these meetings.
Do you, that first bullet point you had, go back to the first one.
For legal?
After the legal, when you talked about conflict, revisit that again.
Oh, we talked about conflict of interest, just making sure that when a scenario comes up, it was like simple scenarios, like if you have a spouse who maybe works at a hardware store.
What we failed the audit for 2 years ago
Oh,
is
okay.
what they were talking about.
Yes.
Were they talking specifically?
Mm-hmm.
That scenario?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Did you hear other districts talk about how they have navigated some of those to not be the topic of discussion? Or they kind of just were listening?
I think the only way to navigate it is to recuse yourself from the vote.
Exactly. Well, actually not even
I mean,
recuse
but-
yourself just from the vote. It will actually be that in that agenda, you would not be able to vote on anything on that agenda. And so you would basically recuse yourself of voting anything on that agenda for that meeting.
The agenda altogether?
The agenda altogether.
Or do they
because-
mean the
The
minutes?
item.
Well, I'm thinking the minutes on the next meeting because it includes that item.
Anything in that meeting, you should not vote on Isn't that what?
No, it's the agenda item.
I think they said if it's like 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, it's gotta be separated.
Yes.
So that you
Yes,
can
that
include it
one.
all
So,
in
yeah.
one.
Not the whole
Yeah.
agenda.
No, not the whole agenda, no, that
Item.
agenda item, so like 3.1, 3.2, that's what I'm talking about, I'm sorry if I said
And,
it wrong.
and just for clarity, I think, like, because public is watching, we have always done that.
Yes, we have.
When there was the citing on the audit, it had to do with a contract that a person was attached to family member wise. It wasn't specifically that person, because when we do percentage increases, for clarity, obviously, I'm saying all this, when we do specific increases or specific hiring, that's a no-brainer, you recuse yourself. But if we're approving an entire contract,
Corrected what they're saying,
that's
so like
where
when
I
it
think,
comes to,
yes.
when you go to the negotiations or anything like that, that person should not vote on that item
Yes.
because the person that they may have relation to causes it to be a conflict of interest,
Mhm.
it's conflict of interest, so you would not vote on that item.
Right.
Mhm.
And I will say, I think for the most part, the board has been very cognizant of that.
Mhm.
I know we always discuss that because so many of us were parents. We have seen, I'm not gonna hear names, but we have seen board members say, I prefer not to vote on that Costa Rica trip because my kid is going.
Mhm.
Or I wanna refrain from that because this person is a hire that I am related to, or something of that nature. So I think that's pretty.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it as far to the student aspect of it, but more so,
Staff.
yeah. So,
And then our last session was called From State House to Schoolhouse. So we talked a little bit about Capital Conference and the way it works with the delegates votes, which I was able to do last year, which was a great experience. We talked a little bit about waiving policy, the first and second reading of policy and things like that. And then they made a good point, which I thought, I know we've been a little lenient on before, but they said that legally, we should be super strict on public participation
Mhm.
when it comes to that, making sure we don't give anyone more time than anyone else, because that can look like discrimination.
Mhm. Inconsistency.
yeah,
Yes.
so basically, literally strict, even if nobody normally comes to our meeting,
Mhm.
if we say 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes, period. Even if we think we wanna give them more time because we know we don't normally give people,
Right.
doesn't matter, because at any point, that could be an issue legally for us
Mhm.
by stating that you offered, it shows some type of
Somebody.
favoritism.
Yeah, especially if something is like, the public comment is confrontational. Like, you let the warm and fuzzy go
Right.
over the 2 minutes,
Mhm.
but you restrict the person that's gonna be conflictual. And if you're just a straight standard all the way across, you don't have a problem.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And then the last thing I had, which I gave you guys handouts for, there's a lot of opportunities through OSBA for us to receive awards. And the distinction award is every 2 years. So I wanted to look at this with you guys, and maybe like put together a spreadsheet, let you guys log where you feel like we can get these certain points at. And then it's just gotta be submitted, which I'll be happy to do for you. I think by August, so they can be recognized at OSBA this year. But a lot of the opportunities to get points also falls within other programs and awards, like smaller versions. Like there's a service award, there's an aptitude award, there's a training award, like just smaller little awards that all can build up to this larger distinction award.
Mhm.
I haven't looked at that tab on OSBA recently, but do they still, when you log in as your own person, it can tabulate what you've done through them still?
Mhm.
Okay.
Because there was a tab
It
where you
tracks
wouldn't
it
have to
all.
keep
It
track of
tracks
all the
it.
stuff or
Okay.
call and be like, can you tell me the last 3
Yeah.
things I attended?
No,
You
it's-
can actually track it on there. Being a new board member, Crystal, what's your thoughts? I heard you mention how you went to do the delegate thing, and that was a great experience. What's your thoughts so far? You're not quite knee deep in, you're a little above the ankle.
Right.
But what are you thinking?
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. Like there's so many more layers to it, and it's really exciting. Like even scratching the surface of the legislative stuff this year has been interesting and profound. So I'm just really excited.
I think we had the conversation before because you were like, I haven't seen a board member really do this and I don't wanna like, and I was telling Crystal when she said that to me, I was like, one, we don't look at it as like, look at her as an overachiever. And we also don't look at it as, look at those 2 or 3, they're lazy. And I was explaining to Crystal how she's in a great season of her life right now. Like her kids are older, where a lot of us walked in here and our kids were K through 3
Right.
or 4 through 6, and we had multiple children. I had 3 in school at one time, so it was kind of tough. You juggling 3 PTAs, and then you want to elevate through PTA. So I was telling her like that doesn't mean because we didn't come through that track, we're lazy or worse.
Right, of course.
But run. If it's an opportunity for you, run. Like I want to see you do some of the things that you want to do in a small amount of time and reach the heights. So don't feel at all like,
Yeah.
I don't want them to think I'm overachieving. Like overachieving this season is at the sundown.
I will say the website is a wealth of information, so it's been really helpful.
It definitely
Yeah.
is. All right. Anything else? Did you meet some other board members? Were you able to mingle? I know you did a little bit at Capital Conference. Now it's like level 2 because you
I
met.
did, and I really do want to, I think I mentioned to you, I want to start going to other board meetings in the area and just meeting other board members and seeing how they run things and what it looks like.
Great.
Yeah,
Please do, because World News Tonight comes on and I watch it.
yeah.
I'm not sitting there looking. But no, really do have fun. I will say I don't go in person, but it is routine for me to log on.
I did hear you can watch most of them online.
I watch
Yeah.
a lot of them online. I navigate from the ones that make you log in and show your name and stuff, because I don't want people to see me. I just like to lurk in the background sometimes, but it's pretty interesting to see how other boards operate. And not even just like a pass-fail thought, just like an exposure. Let me see what other people are doing. And some of those takeaways are really helpful.
Yeah.
With those last 2 real exposures, the training session and then closing up on Capital Conference, what do you see? I mean, I don't want you to say bad, good, ugly, and different, but do you feel like you got some notes where it's like, man, let's try some of these things? Because again, I don't profess to know everything.
Right.
With fresh eyes coming in, we would never shoot down, some thoughts to where, what can we do different?
Right.
What are we kind of excelling at? What do we need to still massage and make a little better? So keep those, anything off the top of your head come to that.
No, I love that we all work together really well and it just flows really well with us. And, that was some of the negative things I heard at Capital Conference were the boards that don't get along and that have conflict, so,
When you have conflict.
yeah.
So we were in that one session together. Do you remember what the question was? And I asked you, was it easy for you to, did you catch on to that as a new board member with us and how we did it?
It's not the parent involvement piece, is it?
I don't remember.
And then we talked a little about family engagement.
I just remember it was
Parent
one
involvement.
part that, you talked about, or we were in the legislation group, we were in together, and, something came up and it was really reference to newer board members and coming onto the board and stuff like that, and, basically the different processes that different boards have, and, do you have a step-by-step that you give to, your new board members, or is it really just fend for yourself, figuring it out? And Crystal's answer was, some stuff I figured out, we didn't have a solid foundation, but, I figured it out, which I thought, was good to even know us speaking and us doing, this board handbook and this board workbook, because other districts have already gone ahead and done it. It was actually it was good being there as a 10-year board member, I can say, with newer board members from your district there. I think that was really,
Because you got the whole spectrum. You got where you like, and sometimes I think you be in a place so long, you kind of get blind a little bit. I mean, I don't hate to say, you get kind of nose blind to it. Like, it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that was something, like,
Routine.
yeah, you do, and then the new one is like, wow, you didn't think that was something, but like, I was over here shaking in my boots, like, how do I do this? So I tried to, I know for me, I was fortunate enough to have, Carmen here, Stephanie was here. They spent a lot of time talking to me, even though we didn't have a lot of written stuff. So I try to reciprocate that a little bit.
Yeah.
I try to be available. It doesn't bother me when new board members ask questions or I have to answer questions. So I think that is very helpful, but I think the foundation of having a manual and coming in with Russ is gonna be very helpful as well. Because everybody that comes on the board and in either position aren't always extroverts and people. Like, everybody doesn't wanna talk, everybody doesn't wanna be in someone's face for 30 minutes a night. And some people are just introverts, but they're productive introverts. And the person shouldn't miss out because they're not that kind of person. So I think that foundation will be a supplement to the engagement of the person.
Yep.
I think that's pretty good.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think at some point, not like today or anything, I think it's beneficial to, even as far back as Ashley, to get you and Ashley to kind of sit down and say, walking in the door then and looking now, tell us some of your biggest barriers. Like, what was the struggle? Like, what didn't you have that you wish now you would have had? Or when the next person comes on, what are you gonna extend to that person because it wasn't extended to you? I think that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah.
Because it's not bad. It's just, I think it's normal to go home and read through stuff, but they're like, oh, how am I supposed to read? Am I just reading when the agenda comes out? Do I read in between? Do I need to click this link? Like, that's a lot for somebody. For me, it's natural. I will read Inspector Gadget all day. You tell me your name, I'm about to figure out when you was born, where you was at, how many times you married. I went to the probate website. But that's not everybody's cup of tea. But I think that would be helpful for you and Ashley, just to kind of lay that out. And don't feel bad. Like, no, I didn't get enough. I was scared. I didn't understand this. I think that would be beneficial. And even when it comes to administration, like, I didn't know it was okay that I can call the treasurer to ask questions.
Please do.
When I think of a superintendent, it's like, you don't have time for me. He's running day-to-day operations. I didn't know my assistant superintendent will answer questions. Some of those things we take as a given, but they do extend it and say, I'm available. But what if they don't think to say I'm available? And you're like, no, it's taboo, I can't talk to them.
Right.
But those kind of things. So.
Yeah.
And we prefer you to reach out, because we would rather have those questions answered. It makes our jobs easier, and we'd rather have those discussions than get into an open meeting and you're lost, and, then there's whenever side conversations, whatever, that's what I was gonna say too, when it comes to the, no surprise policy. I think we kind of follow that anyways, which is why we send like I send the pre-meeting email to kind of say, like, if there's any questions, let me know. So indirectly, and I guess when I heard that, I didn't think it necessarily as a meeting before a meeting or even discussions amongst board members. It was more like, if you have discussions about a topic, please reach back out to me or whoever's recommending it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's basically what it was. And even to go with that, they also said what you said, what you and I agree on, Josh, is even recording it and having it live, She even went on, a lady from OSBA, went on to talk about how, sometimes it's best to even, what is the hardship of waiting 3 days and letting your legal team look at it first before you put it out there, just to be on the safe side, because once it's out there, it's out there. And as we have heard, there are people that are going on looking at these meetings and bringing up frivolous lawsuits and stuff like that. So she spoke to that, but I think out of all of the ones that did it live, it was us, Warrensville still did it live, and Medina, that were there.
Oh, okay.
And we were saying that we're there, and Medina, and everyone else had already pretty much taken after the OSBA suggestion of either waiting and allowing their legal team to review review it first, and then putting it out there to access, so everyone can access it, or, whatever else. But those, that was that. Then they also went on to talk about because how we do the individual council meetings, and how we actually should have a set agenda when we go to the council meetings, and have something that actually is accessible to anyone when we go to the council meetings. So any information that we give at the council meetings should be accessible to anyone, because it is an actual report that is coming from the school board.
It's public record, yeah. And
So
that-
it should actually, so we should have it actually written down and typed up, because we are given a report on behalf of the school board. It actually, yeah, these are things, like, it's crazy, but it's
But it's
actually,
school business.
it's actually
So it's
real.
public
Because
record.
that really makes people not, like, who wants to keep doing, I mean, like, I see what you're saying, but it's like, am I really gonna keep going to these meetings then?
But I'm not saying, even if still going to the meetings, it takes it back, we have had that conversation as to how we communicate and the effectiveness and why we communicate, and doing it to where we are doing safe communication for us as well. And that is what OSBA currently is promoting, because it has honestly been an issue all over the state. So you're giving these reports at these city council meetings, and then people are coming back to your school board office and asking for public record for this meeting and this information that you're giving, which is why when I was sitting at the table, which is why I think these things are good. So I want to say thank you, because you sit at the table with other people who've had these experiences, and they're like, yeah, I was caught on the carpet. I went to a city council meeting, and I'm talking, just giving my information, but because I'm a school board member and I mentioned I'm a school board member, it becomes public record and school business.
Actually, it's not.
I don't think it is.
So, two things. I would say that if you guys, when you guys are presenting at those council meetings, the more formal you are with whatever you're bringing.
But we're
that-
on their agenda. The problem is that we are
But-
listed on their agenda.
but that's not-
As a school board.
Agreed, but that's not our public record as a district, that's
It's the-
theirs.
Right, but I'm
Yes.
saying, so the city should then, if anybody went to Lyndhurst and said.
They could request
we
it.
They could request that public record at that
And then
point.
they say it doesn't exist.
But even if it doesn't exist to be,
Yeah, you can't create
It-
something that doesn't exist.
you can't.
It's not a public record of theirs.
But it does exist,
It
because
does
it's in the
exist 'cause you got
minutes.
up and gave a
So they can
report.
request the minutes, it's in the minutes. And they have to document anything that's stated by you, just like I would. If the city came here and spoke, I would document it, it'd be in my minutes. That would be what they could request.
So when we have that framework of going to the meeting, it's like something in the building, something in the building, something with sports, something with superintendents. And I just go straight to like our newsletter. That's where I send Crystal. Like, I just try to pull everything, like if they pull it from the website, it's there.
So then that would be the public record as the newsletter. You're just citing the newsletter
Yeah, I'm
essentially.
just acknowledging.
So that would be the
and
public
highlighting
record.
some.
so that
I
would
mean-
be your, but they're just saying have set agendas to make things easier and cohesive is what they're saying. So basically just have a set agenda. So click 3 items, 3 bullet points every month that we know we are going to, and it will be the same 3 bullet points that each board member gives at each meeting. So say we wanted to give a bullet point
I
from
thought
the
we were still
treasurer's
doing that,
report.
though.
No, every board member gives a different report.
I mean, they
all-
do give a different report, but I thought like, when I get ready to go to a council meeting, I just go to that framework where I'm like a building report. I literally have a bullet thing, and it's like a building report, something from the superintendent's office. a
Then you
highlight
need to
from
make
each
sure
building.
every board member has that same framework.
Sorry, that's just.
But that's right, but this is why we should have these things documented and written down, because I'm gonna let you know, there are some board members that don't go with that. And every report is different, and you want it to be consistent because it is still information that is coming from the board. It's not, even though you're saying you are a representation of the board. So this report is literally the board's report, so it is the 5 of us. This is our report that we are presenting. So every month, we should literally get up and report the same thing. And that is how it should, even when you go to other board meetings, that is how meetings actually are. So you wanna have, we give at work, my job, I know we have board meetings, and for our departments, when we give our departments, we go based upon our hot list. And it literally, every department gives the same thing based upon that framework for that meeting.
How
you
many
know.
other districts say they go to council meetings? Cause you talked about that before, how many others do?
I don't remember.
I mean, granted, whatever number of counties aren't there, but I'm curious, like,
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if, no, never mind. I was gonna say, I wonder if like OSBA could do a poll. Like how many board members go to council meetings?
They could, or
Ask Gino,
I would like to
he'll
know.
do it.
They
Or he
could.
might even actually be able to know, because he mentioned how he goes to the different council meetings and stuff like, Reno, that's his name, I'm sorry, from Gino. He goes to different council meetings and stuff like that too. So he may actually, especially for the northeast region, he may at least actually have that information.
that or Don might have it for first ring at least. Or he
He
could
would
just
have to
email it out, yeah.
I mean, it's just interesting. You have to think about the times that we're in right now. Everything is offensive. Everything is emotional. Everybody wants to see what they can get or how they don't feel. If you don't feel a certain way, then you react a certain way. It's something to think about. I know we harp on the relationship, but at some point, sometimes you have to weigh asset versus liability. And I'm not trying to be funny. I do, like I told you, I agree. I don't totally disagree with you. Like, and I was telling Crystal, you don't have to create anything major. The newsletter is right there. Pull it out. Cash does a whole process on click the school. Like I literally do that. Click it, see what I like, and then I go to the website and look. I don't create anything different. And if the asset versus liability comes into play, then because
I don't even think it's an asset versus liability. I think it honestly is a thing of just boards being on one accord and being polished and
Consistent.
being at your best, which is why they have these sessions, is what I believe, so you can get other people's best practices.
But I mean, if majority of boards aren't
so-
doing that, then at some point somebody thought about, no, I don't want that exposure.
I mean, we know in the first ring, at least, for boards going to city council, it's just us in Lawrenceville. So, that's 2 out of, what is that, 19? How many are in the first ring, 19? So we know that. So, and I also, and it goes, like the one guy who I was sitting at the table with, they don't go to the city council meetings, but he just so happens to be an active city member because he's in Richmond, Ohio. You know what I'm saying? So it's a smaller city, so different cities and different communities have their, you know, we have our
And
other
it's
flows.
different
You know what I'm
relationships.
saying?
I mean, it's
And
different
it's different involvement pieces,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that's also when they came to the talking about, one thing I thought, which actually may be a good idea, is, you know, the scheduling of the meetings and the meeting times. Like, yes, we schedule and we set them at the beginning of the year so we can have a set, but the meeting is our meeting. And you know, if something happens to where we need to adjust it, you know, you do a public notice of change. And like the other school board, they did their executive or their work sessions, they stopped doing them in the evening and started doing them at 7 in the morning before everybody came to work. And then because your administrative staff still has to come in, they said they had better attendance with that. You know, but I think it was all, we were all laughing at the same part about getting to the meetings on time on the meeting starting at 5:30. And since we all was timing on that one, like, and then people making comments, and we're like, you know, we still have jobs, you know, that we are coming from to get to these meetings. So that a couple of districts, you know, the rural areas, you know, they changed their meetings to be in the mornings for their work sessions because that worked for them.
Remember that worked at the PTA Adrian. Remember Adrian PTA did that years ago.
It was stay-at-home mothers.
But still. The
Right, so what
dynamics
works your
are-
dynamics in
Yes.
your community is
That
what
was-
I'm
and they got
saying.
good
So-
responses from it. But.
So, yeah, so, you know, things like that. Then also, when they talked about more community engagement, while I do feel we do well with our community engagement, but one thing that clicked, and I hadn't thought about it, is we have more nursing homes and nursing facilities in this area now, and those people vote. Those are our voters. They make sure they vote. If we have levies that are gonna come up and things of that nature, those are the people that we wanna go after, and we wanna make sure, understand what's going on in our school district. So partnering them up with schools, the elementary schools, and doing like recess time with the senior citizens and stuff like that for community engagement, because different ways, because we'll need to garner that support, which I thought was a pretty good idea. Cause like we know we have the older population. What, y'all already got that or something?
Dom already was going to, yeah.
Yeah, cause I saw to see that, but see, that's a good thing, cause it's like you don't think
Yeah.
about that stuff. And like when you're sitting with other people to like see what they did to pass their levies and, you know, what did they do to get more community involvement when you have mostly people who don't have kids that are in school but are your voters and are your community. Or you have us where we have the people that live here, but they send their kids to private schools because they can, you know? So you fight with that. So I thought that was good. Also in regards to celebrating our wins, so to make sure that, yes, we know this is our 100th year. So doing something with that, inviting our legislators and stuff, because it is a historic event, to come to that as well. Basically, forming and making sure that we have a parent committee within, I ain't gonna say within the board, but make sure we knew that we have a parent voice and the parents have a voice. That's Crystal.
Is that your PTA?
That's Crystal.
Your PTA council?
I think you talked about that, didn't you?
Yeah, a little bit,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
Crystal.
Dom's working on that, right? A committee, yeah.
Oh, and the complaint process.
Yes.
That was.
District complaints as a whole or board complaints as a whole? Both?
Probably both.
Probably both. I would say probably both.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was both, and like the complaint process, that was a big one,
For districts overall?
for districts
As a general
overall.
consensus?
Yeah, as a general consensus. And then, something that a lot of districts also are thinking about in regards to boards, redistricting the elementaries for climate control, in regards to if you know certain areas of your community have more of a demographic of children and you want to, you know, more so branch them out. To me, it sort of seemed like Cleveland Public School did busing a few years ago is what I sort of heard in my head when I was listening to it. Is that, you're not from Cleveland, so you don't know, okay. So that's, to me, when they were talking about it, that's what I sort of took from that, you know. So I couldn't say that was something that we per se.
You mean like interdistrict enrollment?
Yeah. So like if we have kids that we would think about redistricting Adrian and to where more would end up on that area, would end up going to Roland or Sunview or something. But for us, like I was saying, it just.
Didn't fit the mold.
So I would say I enjoyed it. I think OSBA is good. They're an excellent tool to have and to have access to. But I think that I appreciate the ESC. You know, I will say that.
I would say, I think, so from the admin viewpoint of these types of things, these more specific ones like you guys went to, or the ESC, tend to be more geared towards our needs, whereas Capital Conference, when you go there, you're hearing about successes in other districts that probably 90% of them aren't necessarily relevant to our needs or what's available to us. So that's, it's hit or miss, and that's why I always said it depends. Like, you might get one out of every 4 or 5 that might be relevant or something that you could kind of mold into something that could work. But when you go to these types of ones, it's more specifically geared towards, they see the population that's coming, oh, this district, oh, this might work for them, so they'll build it more for who's gonna be there, whereas the other, Capital Conference is so large, it's more like district successes.
I would say, I think it was a lot geared, I think it was intentionally geared towards a lot of legislative, I can't talk legislative stuff, especially with the legislative conference being, the next week,
Yeah, the 18th.
the 18th, you know, next week,
It's the time of the year.
huh?
It said it's the
What's
time
happening every-
time of the year.
everybody, like,
Hot-
our
hot button.
conference
So,
May.
yeah, so, even like, there's Ellie is down there in DC now for public housing, so, you know, so it's like, so yeah, so that is, on the 18th, so I really think it was geared, to make sure, you know, we are all on the same page
Put it on
when
your
it,
radar.
and, you know, and I agree, and I will say, I did finally, somebody finally called me back from Eric Sennenberg's office. If we can get Kent Smith to reply to us, it would be great. So, I'm gonna talk to him on the 20th, the 20th. I think that's Thursday.
Hmm.
So, but all in all, I think it was some great takeaways.
Did anybody talk to Ashley? I know it was premature that she said she was not feeling well, but,
I
did
did.
you talk to her before at all? So maybe I'll ask her to get her information, just briefly, maybe in other board business.
Yeah, and she was also in a different, Crystal and I just ended up being in the same group, which was crazy. So, a lot of the stuff that we got was on the same page because we were in the same group, so those questions were asked and brought up. But I almost forgot about the ladies thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we did meet, a lady from Matthews Local, which is a real small district that is out by, Youngstown and before you get to Pennsylvania. So they have like this, she did this nice school district catalog that she gives to, like, she has had to hunt down senators, she said, she's hunted down agricultural people, lobbyists, everyone, because their schools, their buildings are 100 years old, and they have never gotten new buildings, because you know how the school funding go for school, getting new school buildings, which is really, really crazy. But it was just like talking about the conditions of the school and the pictures. It was just,
Her public record, her opinion.
and she said she has gotten this to Mike DeWine, Governor DeWine. She said she has run up just about everybody. But all these other people seem to be doing so much, which is why I'm so happy Crystal really wants to do this work. Because they seem to like, they seem to like know all the people, know all the things, and have done all of the work. You know? And it was exciting. But one part me and Crystal thought was cool, and we do come up with a strategic plan, would be potentially maybe to have one of these. And you showcase it because, like in our senior citizen, homes and communities, they like catalogs, y'all.
Is that still like the thing we had? Do we still have those in the building where each building profile sheet?
So it's not the same now, and it's online. And the one just went out though in the mail. The quarterly thing just went out.
No, not that one. Remember at one point, we had building profiles for each building, so like when people came to the building,
yeah, and
we had
it
a
would be
profile
there.
sheet for the building. Remember that?
I don't think we have those anymore. But I just think something like this, I know everything is electronic now, and, but I talk to my mother who is 65 every day.
She totally missed it.
And this is stuff that those people still utilize and they still need, and we need them. Like, we need them, and we can't miss out on them. So, like, I really do come back with that, because, especially for our district, because I know we are losing that. And I have actually been one of the ones on board, like, stop sending out stuff in the mail. Like, we don't need no more paper. But then, we really do.
So
and
do
I
we
don't want us to
almost like
forget.
batch drop to that clientele?
I don't know. I don't know how to.
You know what I'm saying?
I know. I was gonna share this with Kristen, give it to Melissa and Josh to take back, but also just that messaging as well. So she is sitting here for Dime today. That messaging of we still need this stuff.
Maybe that might be a thing.
Because we still. I don't know if we're gonna have to do a levy soon. It may be 5 years down the line, but at the end of the day, those community members are still here. And these are the things that they need to see from us still. So I just ask that we don't go too far away from some of the stuff.
Are we gonna get something similar like that when they do the full audit of the systems?
That's coming, yes.
Okay.
And it's gonna be way more in depth, I'm sure than that.
Yeah, probably will be. Like this lady, her high school only has.
That's
like, I
exactly
think,
what
100
popped into my head. It was
kids.
like, well, I have no problem doing that. We got
Yeah,
pictures
but just-
galore and
Yeah,
a list.
but
Yes, it's
you know.
coming.
I think Crystal and I both looked at it and we're just like, yeah, like,
It's motivating.
It was. It really, I will say that it did. I was like, I got in the car and Elliot was like, so how was it? And you know, what did you learn? And at first I was like, this is really annoying. Is this really the stuff that you do? Like, am I supposed to talk to you in real life? Like, but I was like, you know, it was very insightful. You know, it was really good. And it did. I contacted Reno, like, you know, exactly what you just said to Crystal earlier. When I became a board member, my baby was 2. You know, she's 12 now. I have more flexibility and opportunity to do more now. And going to things like this actually do make you want to do the work, Crystal. So thank you. Like, truthfully and honestly. Y'all might get another 4 years.
Any thoughts from you both?
Is that a threat or a promise?
But y'all gotta vote.
Any thoughts from you both?
No, I mean, I think we have a good shell and a good baseline. I will say that, I can speak for myself when it came to, like, you talked about treasurers and superintendents coming back and reporting their PD. It's a lot of the same stuff. So like, I'm gonna go to, OASBO here shortly in April.
In April, yeah.
And it's a lot of the same stuff. We did this, we did that, worked great. When I explored, I'm like, that's probably not gonna work for us. So, but there is stuff. And I think instead of doing like the hard presentation to come back and say, I saw this, what you end up seeing is, as long as you have a proactive superintendent and treasurer, they will come back and say, this is what I took away, I found out about this, I'm adopting it. So you'll see it on the agenda to say, this is what I found, this is where I saw it at. I tend to borrow, steal, whatever I can from other district successes in the sense of something that'll work for us. So, I mean, some of the biggest things that you'll hear me talk about, whether it's, trying to go on 100% paperless, whether it's the zero-based budgeting, that wasn't my stuff. I mean, I think we all know that. I didn't come up with it out of nowhere. It's stuff that people have had success with, and I have taken and adopted it and made it my own in the sense of certain aspects of it. But those are kind of how to report back. That's how I consider myself reporting back. I kind of feel he's the same way. He probably even worse than I am. He will grab and see, and, oh, this is working for so-and-so, I'm gonna pull that, I'm gonna use that. So that's, I think we naturally report back anyways, I guess is what I'm saying. I do think we have, by default, to go back to the no surprises policy, I think by default, we always have had that, because we don't want to get out and have that disagreement. I mean, I think in the past, and we've had no votes since I've been here, but I think we knew they were coming, and we were prepared as a group to know they're coming and to have a certain amount of a discussion on it.
And there have been times we pulled things off the agenda.
Yes.
And I was transparent with that because people were like, so if you have to pull it off the agenda, you gotta pull it off the agenda. Oh, well.
Right.
Yeah, like, it's not something that'll turn the lights off tomorrow, like, we're not gonna argue about a utility bill.
No.
And I will say I'll say that was a thing, and a lot of it, you go back and you do come back with gratefulness, because it's like, you do think, I was like, oh, I don't gotta worry about that with Josh. Like, oh, I've gotten that already from my treasurer. You all have to ask for it. My treasurer already gives this to us willingly. It's in his report. Like, a lot of the things that are in your report,
Yeah.
I don't think people know. A lot of other treasurers don't reveal all of that information in their reports, but you give us the meat, and we actually sit there and we absorb it. So and I will say I agree with you that Dom does the same thing, because he'll be quick to go to Bastock and be like, hey, I got this, and we gonna do this. And don't worry about it, Miss Lee. We got it. You all do good. And I even kudos to Cassandra. When they talked about the beginning of the conference was leadership, and your school board leader and your school board president. A lot of the reason we don't have that issue is because you do set a basis. We just gotta write it down. You know, like it is, it's there, you said it, and we have it, but we just have to write it down, and you know? And it's, and even like the thing I was saying, adding stuff on, it's like, no, we don't have that problem, because when I became a board member, you sat there and you explained to me, you know, how we're able to contact the treasurer, contact the different department leaders to see, you know, so you do set that, you know, set that tone for us as board members, you know, so I will, that has a lot to do with it too, because we work cohesive because of you, you
Right.
know, so.
And I will say, one part they mentioned, which I really loved, is they talked about, if you want a successful board, it shouldn't be your 5 board members, your treasurer, and your superintendent. All 7 of you should be a collective,
Mhm.
and I think we have that.
I
Yes.
think we do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We definitely have. I mean, even with Dom, like, he wasn't here today. He been texting me Friday, Saturday. Do you need anything? Do you need? Like, no, I don't need anything. Well, you know how to find me if you do. And like, it's so like we're about to
Don't
talk
you
about what we
know?
said at the thing. Like, it's good.
I gave him a nasty email earlier today. I said, will you stop checking your email and spend time with your family?
No, he is not checking his emails, you are.
He is a worker.
I do the same thing. You can't help it.
You do.
You
I
can't
do
help
too.
it.
I
And
know that
I'm the
they
type of
check them
person
all
that
up, you know.
I want to respond as soon as I see it, because my initial response is typically where my head is at anyways. The longer I sit on it, I'm like, I don't know. I want to give you my honest, like, this is where we're at.
I just think that's value. I mean, you value what you do, you value your name on something,
Mhm.
and your ethic. I mean, your ethic is there. Nobody can take that
Oh,
away.
yeah. That's why I'm paranoid.
So,
That's why when you mention so-and-so sitting there shaking in their boots, yeah, that's me. And I own that. Because I'm going to keep me
Very
and all of us
well.
safe.
Giving me nasty looks the entire meeting.
anything else? Other than that, that's all. I'm glad that you guys went. I felt so bad that Saturday. Like, man, I could just go.
Girl, bye. It was fine. It was good.
Well, I appreciate you all going and bringing the feedback and just wanting to do the work. Because we all have a lot of other things that we could be doing, but we choose to do this. You know, we don't do it for the reward. We do it because we just enjoy doing it and it's a passion to try to do it. That being said, I don't have anything else.
Oh, sorry, I do have one last thing. The lady from Cuyahoga Falls School Board actually fixed your mathematical equation. We make $2.82 an hour as school board members. I just wanted to make sure you knew
I
that.
don't have 287.
You had it, yeah, you had it a couple off, but she actually had done the math too. So I was like, I have to go back and tell my,
I'm not.
That might vary too, though.
it made, okay.
Well, you got to figure.
It definitely
What's
is 26 pay
our-
periods a year.
Well, it's what our average, like, time of meeting is.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and talking to other people for other
Okay.
districts, their meetings might be 4 hours, where our average is probably just under 2 or whatever,
Oh,
like.
okay.
Yeah, so I'd love to know what their average meeting
I
time
mean,
is
it's
to get to that dollar
only
amount.
literally 3-cent difference,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
3 cents a lot for 16 years.
It's true.
I just was surprised that somebody else had actually done it
Man.
besides Cassandra. I really just thought only Cassandra had
You
done
tell
it.
me I get your teeth clean and pay your retirement, I have to break it down for you. So,
You are nuts.
all right, with that being said, we don't have really anything else. We would have been a little longer with Ashley, but I'll allow her to talk about in the new board stuff, and then I'll kind of give her, she can streamline it and do what she wants. Ms. Thompson? All good? No? Okay. We don't have a need for executive session, and 6:57, may we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Aye. And we will see you all on the
18th.
18.
18th
Yep.
for our regular board meeting. Thank you.